This is CT Moore for WatchMojo.com. Today we're talking to Mitch Joel, author of 6 Pixels of Separation, about business and social media. So tell me, Mitch, 6 Pixels of Separation, what exactly is the idea behind all of that?
I sort of had this moment in time where I realized that this concept of me being able to grow my business by networking and meeting people who could introduce me to the right people is pretty much over in this day and age of Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and stuff like that. And so we live in a really interesting and unique time where, CT Moore doesn't need permission or an introduction through someone else to connect to me. You could do a simple search online for me and you could find me on Facebook, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, or wherever it might be, and we're connected. And so there's this sort of big shift that's happening in society that we haven't really looked at or acknowledged from a business perspective or just a life perspective, where what's life like in a world where we're all connected, in a world where we all know what each other are thinking, what we're doing, pictures, family, professional, personal, all coming together. And so there's been this dramatic shift that has taken place, and now we're in the middle of like this weird undercurrent of it. And so I wrote a book that spoke to business people, entrepreneurs, small, medium size, even people within companies who are sort of struggling with these new online channels, to really understand how they connect to consumers and how brands connect to consumers and what that means in this world. And it sort of became this cacophony of content, I think, but in the end, there's actually almost like this roadmap to how to make it work. And I guess part of the back end of it was that I did that to grow my business as well.
What do you think are some of the challenges that brands, big or small, or companies, big or small, face when trying to connect with consumers that way?
I think one of the first things brands do when they see these conversations is they're like, all right, how do we make money off of this? Or like, how can we market to them in these channels? If brands could step back and realize that they have tremendous knowledge of an industry that most people are passionate about, and what I mean by that is, it doesn't matter if it's B2B or B2C, usually there's some level of consumers or buyers or back-end people who are just interested in the industry. And my whole thing is, if brands could share their thoughts, their insights into why they're passionate about what they do, why they're passionate about the industry, what's happening in the industry, where's it going, they can actually get people to pay attention to them, to become part of their community and have conversations about it. But it's like we get trapped in that old trick of like, okay, like, well, I got one person, let me put an offer in front of them. And I think that's the sort of big transition where brands think they can market in online social networks when in reality they need to be parts of conversations, creating connections, helping people connect to one another. And it's challenging because it's not an immediate like campaign push, it's a long-term thing. So I think that's the real sort of catalyst to helping brands break through, is like a step back. How can I serve people by providing value and content to them? How can I engage them, engage one another, and take the time to really build valuable relationships? And over time, that's obviously where the big ROI is.
Do you think that there's any kind of brand or any kind of industry that doesn't really have the potential to connect to consumers across these channels?
You go to search.twitter.com and you can do everything from basic little makeup and chewing gum and chips to buying a Learjet, literally. And you'll see different types of conversations. And so I think one of the things we've seen as 1.5 billion people sort of converge online is that anything and everything goes, and that most people have to make a final purchase decision, want to have it in some way, shape, or form substantiated through a third party, a peer, or someone else. So I really haven't seen something where I've been like, nah, there ain't a position for it in the online channel.
All right, well, thank you very much for your time, Mitch.
Thanks, CT.